Another great trading week this past week. Here's a trade on gold that we took in the daily market breakdown videos this past week. Let's get right into this week's Forex Forecast. Alright, starting the forecast off with the US dollar index. Now, there is no COT report this week. It is delayed until the November 13th. So usually we do the COT report, which shows the bank positions, but this week we do not have that information. But that's okay. Starting with a top-down approach here on the weekly chart, just want to start off by saying we are in the middle of supply and demand. So when that's the case, so this is a weekly chart. When we are in the middle of supply and demand on the weekly chart, we essentially have to go down to the lower time frames to really get an idea of, are we going to push up to supply or are we going to push down to demand? Now I know the daily chart is not a lower time frame, but on the daily chart here, we have definitely seen some evidence to suggest that we could be going lower. I definitely don't call this a downtrend, but I definitely call it downward momentum because at the end of the day, we did create a lower low here and a pretty clear, valley and a pretty clear peak. So in my opinion, that is definitely enough evidence for me to suggest, hey, maybe we are going to continue to go down here on the DXY or just on the dollar pairs in general. So to continue the top-down approach, we are now into 4-hour supply, and we are currently reacting pretty nicely off the supply zone. It's currently being respected. We've had pretty much like 5 wicks into the supply. Now we are pushing down. It is definitely very difficult to suggest, to question, is this supply going to hold all the way down to here? I don't know. Is it going to hold to here? I don't know. It's definitely difficult to tell. But at the end of the day, we do have a 4-hour supply zone in control here on the DXY. So we could definitely see the move down to like 104, which could break that low, which would be definitely a good sign, create a downward trend line as well. So in my opinion, we have a 4-hour supply in control at 105.93. We could definitely see the dollar start to rally down. And if we actually break that supply, we are most likely headed up to about 106.73, where we'll probably struggle to get through this supply as well. So far, we have a 4-hour supply zone in control on the dollar, and as long as that supply is in control, I think looking for shorts on the dollar, especially on day trading timeframes, is going to be okay. All right, on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. So on the daily chart, this is pretty interesting. We do have a daily supply that's in control, but this supply is pretty tested before, but it is currently being respected. Now, I am personally thinking we could break up above that supply. It's definitely difficult to tell, where the long-term price is going of the dollar, which is going to affect the euro, obviously. So it's definitely very difficult. All I'm really seeing, as far as the 4-hour chart, is demand at 1.06, where we could see a move off of that demand. Now, let's say we break up above there, break the high. At that point, we'll have a trend line here, and that will be another bullish sign at that point. I think looking for day trading longs will also be okay on like a 1-minute, 5-minute, or a 50-minute chart as well. But for now, we really only have the 4-hour demand below 1.06, where we could see a move off of that demand zone here on the Euro US dollar. And on the 1-hour chart, we actually have now, I didn't notice this until recording this video, we actually have a pretty clean 1-hour downtrend right now with a 1-hour demand zone about to be in contact. Now, this is a decent little 1-hour zone. I'm actually going to tighten it up right here at 1.06528. Very similar to the 4-hour chart as well, where we could see a move off of that zone, the 1-hour chart. So potential trap set up here where we have a support level, where we could see a move off of that. So that's what I'd be focusing here on the euro, at least for the time being. Definitely tricky times out here. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's super easy to trade right now and everything's super clear. It is difficult. The dollar is kind of being tricky right now, and a lot of indecision. So at the end of the day, we have to just continue to move on and keep our risk managed appropriately. On to the forecast for gold. Looking at the weekly chart, remember, weekly demand was in control down here, and that is, in my opinion, why we saw the push up, as well as other news events as well. But at the end of the day, weekly demand is in control. We are expecting to see the continuation move to the upside here on gold, and a significant thing has happened. So looking at the daily chart, I was actually telling the Diamond members that we had profit margin to daily demand at 1929, and that we could be looking for day trading shorts or shorts down to that demand zone. So we actually had a nice pullback to this 1-hour demand at 1962 with tons of profit margin to the downside to daily demand. So that was a trade that we took in the daily market breakdown videos for the Diamond members. If you are interested in gaining access to these daily market breakdown videos, because look, my weekly Forex forecasts on Friday are only on Friday, but if you want these breakdowns every single day of the week where you can catch trades like this throughout the week, check it out. Links are in the description down below to the Diamond membership. We have video lessons as well. We also have a lifetime access if you do not want to pay the monthly fee. So check it out. Links are in the description down below to join the membership. We'll be happy to see you guys all join the team. So as far as gold goes now, we had a beautiful trade off the 1 hour supply. We do have new supply at about 1953. The problem with this supply now is that we are so close to this daily demand, and depending on how you draw it, if you draw it up here, we've pretty much touched it. So it is definitely tricky. I'm going to draw it like that, so it's not really touched yet. At 1931, but since we are so close to this daily demand and we could easily see a move off of it like that, I don't really think looking for day trading longs is going to be okay. I think we actually need to wait for longs. Now, obviously, there's 1, 2, 3 demand zones here, and all of them are honestly pretty damn good. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're all really, really good in my opinion. So we realistically see a move off of any one of these zones. Maybe these two fail and this one works. Maybe this one fails and this one works. Maybe this one works. Maybe you know what I mean. So I'm just saying we need to adjust our risk accordingly and look for confirmation, in my opinion. So with this daily demand almost in control, we are basically going to look for confirmation on the 1 hour chart. So what I am personally going to be looking for here is something like this on the 1 hour chart. So we go like this, hopefully remove the supply in the downward trend line, and if we are left with a 1 hour demand zone, boom, that would be our 1 hour confirmation trade like that. If you don't know what confirmation trading is, I have plenty of videos in my trading tips playlist here on YouTube, and as always, I have the video lessons, like I said, in the Diamond membership. But this is what I'm looking for here on gold. This could happen midweek. Another reason to join the Diamond membership as well, because this zone on the 1 hour chart could happen on a Wednesday or something, who knows, but that is what I'm going to be looking for here on gold. And look, I see the 1 hour downtrend. I get the idea of, oh, we got to be day trading short, and I get that. But the problem with that is that we are coming up to a significant demand zone on the daily chart at 1931, and I think at this point we need to kind of wait here and get some sort of confirmation move to the long side here on gold. All right, on to the forecast for the USDJPY. So looking at the daily chart here, we had this daily demand at 149.85, and we don't want to move off of that daily demand zone. You can see, remember guys, this is the power of supply and demand. We had pretty tight basing candle here, an explosive move to the upside. It stayed away and we pulled back and reacted off of it. Just want to simply point out, the power of that right there. So clear, crystal clear. But remember, we are kind of at the high now, so we definitely need to be cautious with trading long. But I don't blame you guys for trading long. But looking at the weekly chart here, it is so close to breaking this weekly supply. We can pretty much call it removed at this point. I'm really, okay, yes, the supply is still on my chart. It's still there. I'm still somewhat kind of worried about it. Not really, but in my opinion, it's so tested now, so easily tested that in my opinion, we are probably going to just break out of this weekly supply. So pretty much ignoring it at this point. But look, if we do break this high, at that point, we'll have a weekly uptrend. So at that point, I'll be very, very bullish on the USDN. Yes, we do have weekly momentum, but an uptrend, is a little bit different. So that'll be a strong sign for sure. But at the end of the day, the USDN is looking strong. We have demand being respected on the daily chart multiple times. The only problem with it, and we've been having a problem in the daily market breakdown videos as well, is there's really been no clear zones. Okay, we had a zone down here, could barely get filled down there. But it's just been trending up, so it's high momentum, but really no good zones. So at this point, we're basically looking to remove that high, hopefully create a nice solid 4 hour zone we can look for longs at. So as far as the USDN goes, really not any zones for me to report to you guys as far as supply and demand trading goes. But look, with the momentum being up as it is, I think day trading longs is definitely fine. So if you're on a 1 minute chart, a 5 minute chart, we have a 1 hour momentum and 4 hour momentum and trend. I think looking for longs are going to be fine on a 1 minute, 5 minute, or a 15 minute chart. But as far as like the safest bet, we kind of want to, like I said, wait for a new 4 hour zone to be formed as we continue to push up here. But at the end of the day, USDJPY looking very, very strong. And in the meantime, it's day trading longs for sure on the day trading timeframes. On to the GBPUSD, we have a pretty good demand zone here in the daily chart at 1.21. I want to ask you guys, do you guys think this demand will break, or do you think this demand will hold and react to the upside possibly to 1.25. Let me know in the comments down below and what your thoughts are on the GBPUSD. So we are almost in this daily demand. It is a tricky situation because we actually have a 4-hour demand zone here at 1.22. I think this is a decent 4-hour demand zone. Obviously, very nice push away. So if we do continue to hold, I think we could see a positive move to the upside. The problem with this daily demand, though, is that, with this 4-hour demand, is that the daily demand is almost in control. I mean, you actually might push down to that, which would actually break the 4-hour demand zone. So at the end of the day, 4-hour demand's in control. We could be looking for day trading longs coming off of that 4-hour demand zone. And if you want to play it safe for longs, this is what you could be doing here. This is definitely more conservative on the 1-hour chart now. The confirmation that you could be looking for would be this, where we remove the supply and the downward trend line. And if we are left with a 1-hour zone, that would be your potential trade right there at that 1-hour zone. Remember, if this takes place on the charts, I will have the zone on my charts, and you get access to all of those zones with my chart link. So just wanted to point that out as well. So that would be the confirmation here on the overall 1-hour chart on the pound is what I would be looking for. As far as shorts go, yes, I see it. I see the 1-hour downtrend. I get the idea of looking for shorts to continue to trade with that trend. But to me, I think that the trend could be coming to an end, especially since, you know, we have the 4-hour demand in control, about to have a daily demand in control. So my opinion, I mean, going back to the daily chart, I'm not saying that this daily demand is going to, you know, hold all the way up to here, or go to the moon, right? But what I am saying is the daily demand's in control. We definitely could see at least some hesitation before we push down if that's what's going to take place. So as far as the pound goes, kind of just got to monitor this 4-hour demand zone. We could be looking for longs off that zone. And then if for a more conservative entry, we want to see a change of direction here on the 1-hour chart by removing the downward trend line. All right, on to the USDCAD. Pretty interesting chart here. We have a daily uptrend, and we actually had a daily supply at 1.38. And as you can see, we've had a pretty nice reaction off of it. Now, is this a huge reaction? Was this a massive trade? Absolutely not. But we can clearly see this supply being respected as soon as we whipped into that supply zone. So with that being said, how do we trade this on the USDCAD? It is tricky, and here's why. We have a 1-hour uptrend. So as far as our trades to the short side coming off that daily supply, because remember, if we're going to look for trades in a daily zone, we need to look for entries on an H1 chart. And as you can see, this is an H1 chart, as you can see right here. So what we are essentially looking for confirmation is something like this, where we remove that upper trend line. If we remove that upper trend line and we are left with 1-hour supply, that will be our confirmation to trade in short. And it doesn't need to be more complicated than that, in my opinion. If you want to be a little bit risky and you think, I don't think the USDCAD is going to go any lower, I think we're going to continue to go up. I get that. We have a daily uptrend. You don't want to trade against the daily trend. I get that, and that's completely fine. So what I would be looking for here is, you know, I'm sure on the 5-minute chart there's some sort of downward momentum line or trend. We need to wait for that 5-minute downward trend to be changed and start to go up, and then we could look for longs. So look, 1-hour trend is up. That means that 1-minute chart, 5-minute chart longs are definitely going to be okay. But like I said, the daily supply is in control up here. So we could start to see this thing start to roll over and actually break this overall 1-hour uptrend. So really all going to be focused on this 1-hour uptrend. It's either going to hold and we can, you know, potentially get in some long trades along the way up, or if it breaks like that, left with 1-hour supply, we'll have a beautiful potential short trade confirmation coming off the daily supply on the USDCAD. All right, on to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. This one is very similar to the pound in some ways. On the daily chart, I don't have a demand zone here, but we can pretty much call this some sort of buying area. So as far as what I said on the pound, it kind of applies here on the Aussie. So looking at the 1-hour chart, we could be looking for, you know, some sort of confirmation long entry like that, where, you know, if you remove the supply and the downward trend line, you know, that would be a pretty good confirmation looking at the 1-hour chart. I get that day trading shorts, it looks okay, and I get that, you know, and if we do pull up to this 4-hour supply, that's at about 0.64. I think this is a good area to look for potential short trades if you are bearish. So you could go down to a day trading time frame if we do contact this supply and look for shorts. And if we push up to this supply at 0.64, I think we can look for shorts off of that as well, if you are bearish, of course. And you know, if at any point we push up, you know, above this supply, creating some sort of 4-hour demand, we could be looking for longs in that demand as well. There's really no super clear direction on which direction to trade. as far as the weekly chart goes. So it is tricky to trade right now. That's why I'm giving, options for longs and for shorts, because, okay, yes, on the daily chart and on the weekly chart, we are at some sort of lows, so we could, push up, but it is tricky. We have trend still, and we need to see some sort of confirmation. So really would be mostly focused on this 4-hour chart at these supply zones to see what takes place there. On to the USDCHF, we couldn't quite pull back down to this daily demand. I was hoping we could, so we can get a potential long entry or even a little bit lower at 0.88. But to me, now it's not really looking like we're gonna get up there. And looking at the daily, as far as the 1-hour chart goes, we do have a 1-hour demand zone that's being respected and a pretty nice 1-hour uptrend. Now, zooming out, we are actually kind of just ping-ponging between 1-hour supply from back here and 1-hour demand. So we are essentially now waiting for the breakout to continue to look for pullbacks to the long side on day trading timeframes. So as long as we have this 1-hour trend and zones being respected, we could be looking for day trading longs. Now, something to be cautious about is this 4-hour supply zone here at 0.90. We could see a move off of that, so we need to be potentially careful off that supply. But look, with the trends to the upside in the 1-hour chart, I think looking for longs are definitely going to be okay here on the USD Swiss. All right, last but not least, we are on to crude oil. So I'm not going to zoom in on the daily or actually I'm going to zoom in on the weekly chart. With the weekly demand and control here, our weekly buying area, we could see a move off of oil back up to 87.25 from here. So we might have actually seen the bottom here in oil. It'll be difficult to tell, but as far as the daily chart goes, we still have a daily downward trend here, in my opinion. So we really, for the best possible sign, it would be to remove that downward trend. I know that's a huge move, but honestly, I think it could happen. So daily downward trend line like this still in play, but we do have a daily demand zone that has a control at 76.30 as well. So on the 1-hour chart, we actually did get some sort of confirmation by removing this downward trend and supply. So with that being said, both of these, the downward trend line and supply is removed, I think we're probably going to continue to push up here on oil, at least up to $80.87 a barrel. Pullbacks down to 76.12 could be okay as well, but at the end of the day, we are essentially breaking out here. So I think longs are certainly going to be okay, especially since that daily demand is in control. And as far as profit targets go, I mean it's long term. I think we could be headed back up to like 110, like long term. But as far as kind of medium term, 87.25 a barrel for targets, I think that's fine as well, and even like 94. So at the end of the day, we are getting some sort of 1-hour confirmation here for longs coming off of daily demand on oil. But remember, downward trend on the daily chart, so we need to be trading with caution here. But at the end of the day, we trade on evidence, right? With supply and demand traders, we trade on evidence, and we are definitely seeing evidence that price is starting to turn around and continue to go up. And if you guys want to watch the full-length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.